I was shoveling snow off my driveway at 6 o'clock in the morning when Brenda Thompson from the HOA marched across the street with a clipboard clutched to her chest like a shield. The blizzard warning had been in effect for 3 days, and the temperature hadn't climbed above 15 degrees since Monday. My heated walkway system, the one I'd installed last October, was the only thing keeping my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, from breaking her hip every time she needed to check her mail. "Kyle Richardson," Brenda called out, her voice cutting through the howling wind. "We need to talk about your flagrant violation of community standards." I leaned on my shovel and watched her navigate the icy sidewalk. She was wearing designer boots that looked expensive but provided absolutely zero traction. She nearly went down twice before reaching my property line. "Morning, Brenda. What violation are you talking about?" She held up the clipboard with gloved hands, pointing to a highlighted section. "Your heated walkway system. It's not in compliance with the architectural guidelines established in 2019. You need to shut it down immediately." "You're kidding." I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. "It's minus 12 degrees with the wind chill. The National Weather Service issued a blizzard warning. People could get seriously hurt on these sidewalks. The guidelines clearly state that any exterior heating system requires HOA approval, which you failed to obtain." Brenda's lips pressed into a thin line. "I'm issuing you a formal violation notice. You have 24 hours to comply, or we'll begin fining you $500 per day. I submitted the application 7 months ago. Your committee never responded. That's because it was denied. I never received a denial letter." Brenda shifted her weight, nearly losing her balance again on the ice. "That's not my problem. The rules are the rules. Shut down by tomorrow morning or face the fines." She turned and carefully made her way back across the street to her pristine colonial house, the one with the perfect landscaping and a flagpole that probably violated 6 different county ordinances, but somehow never faced HOA scrutiny. I watched her go, feeling the cold seep through my winter coat. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from Mrs. Patterson next door. "Did I just see Brenda giving you trouble?" I texted back. "Nothing I can't handle. Stay warm." But I couldn't handle it. Not really. The HOA in Meadowbrook Estates, Colorado, had become increasingly aggressive over the past 2 years. Ever since Brenda took over as president, she transformed a reasonable community organization into something that resembled a small dictatorship. Last month, she fined the Hendersons $3,000 because their Christmas lights were the wrong shade of white. The month before that, she threatened legal action against Tom Morrison for parking his work truck in his own driveway. I went inside and made coffee, trying to think through my options. The heated walkway had cost me $12,000 to install. It ran on electricity and kept my front walk, driveway, and the public sidewalk in front of my house clear of ice and snow. It was environmentally friendly, energy efficient, and most importantly, it kept people safe. My phone rang. It was my lawyer, Derek Chen. "Kyle, I just got a very interesting email from the Meadowbrook Estates HOA. He said, they're threatening to place a lien on your property if you don't comply with some violation notice." That was fast. She just left my house 10 minutes ago. "What's this about a heated walkway?" I explained the situation while Derek listened, occasionally making notes. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. "Here's the thing," he finally said. "They might have a technical argument about the approval process, but forcing you to shut down a safety feature during a blizzard warning is completely unreasonable. More than that, it could open them up to liability if someone gets hurt. Can we fight this?" "We can, but HOA disputes are tricky. They're governed by both state law and the community's covenants, conditions, and restrictions. The CC and Arcticus usually give the HOA broad authority. However, Colorado law does provide some protections for homeowners, especially regarding safety issues. So what do I do?" "Don't shut it down. Let them fine you. We'll fight the fines in court and make the argument that they're acting unreasonably and potentially creating a public safety hazard. In the meantime, I'll send them a formal response outlining our position." I thanked Derek and hung up, but I felt uneasy. Fighting the HOA meant months of legal battles, thousands in legal fees, and the constant stress of living under Brenda's increasingly hostile oversight. That evening, I went down to my basement to check on the heated walkway system's control panel. That's when I noticed something I'd completely forgotten about. Behind the water heater, there was an old access panel that led to a small utility room. The previous owner had mentioned it once, saying it connected the community well system that had been installed when the neighborhood was first developed in the 1970s. I pulled open the access panel and squeezed through. The utility room was cramped and dusty, filled with old PVC pipes and valves. In the corner, there was a junction box where several large pipes converged. A faded label read Meadowbrook Community Well Primary Distribution Junction. I'd always assumed the neighborhood was on city water. My water bill came from Aurora Municipal Water Department every month. But looking at this setup, I realized that the community well was probably still active, feeding into the municipal system or supplementing it somehow. I took out my phone and started researching. After an hour of digging through county records and old property documents, I discovered something remarkable. The Meadowbrook Community Well was a private well that served 32 homes in the neighborhood, including mine. It had been established in 1974, before the area was annexed into Aurora city limits, when the city water lines were extended into the neighborhood in 1982. The developers had created a hybrid system where the community well fed into a storage tank that supplemented the city water supply. The well was owned and operated by the Meadowbrook Estates HOA, and according to the county records, it had never been properly permitted or inspected by the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. I sat back on my heels, staring at those pipes. An unpermitted well serving 32 homes with drinking water was a serious violation of state law. The kind of violation that could result in massive fines, mandatory shutdowns, and even criminal charges if contamination was discovered. My phone buzzed with another email from the HOA. This one detailed the fine structure: $500 per day for the first week, increasing to $1,000 per day after that. They'd also scheduled a hearing for next Friday where they would vote on whether to place a lien on my property. I took photos of the well junction, the pipes, the labels, and every serial number I could find. Then I went upstairs and spent the next 3 hours compiling every piece of documentation I could find about the community well system. The next morning, Brenda was at my door again at 7 sharp. This time she had 2 other HOA board members with her, Patricia Woods, the treasurer, and Gary Sullivan, the secretary. All 3 of them looked cold and annoyed. "Mr. Richardson, we have conducted a visual inspection of your property," Brenda announced. "Your heated walkway system is still operational. You are now in violation of the compliance deadline. Fines will begin acre-wing as of midnight tonight." "I'm not shutting it down," I said calmly. "It's a safety feature during a blizzard warning. If someone slips and gets hurt on the ice, the HOA could be held liable." "That's not how this works," Patricia interjected. She was a thin woman in her 50s with sharp features and an even sharper tone. "The community guidelines supersede individual concerns. If everyone just did whatever they wanted, we'd have chaos. Heated walkways aren't chaos. They're common sense." Gary, who was a large man with a red face and perpetual scowl, stepped forward. "You think you're special, don't you? Think the rules don't apply to you? Well, we're going to make an example out of you, Richardson. By the time we're done, you'll wish you just followed the simple instructions." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise," Brenda said. "Enjoy your fines." They turned and left, nearly slipping on the icy sidewalk in front of the Johnson house next door. I watched them go, then pulled out my phone and called Derek again. "They're proceeding with the fines. I told him, and they're getting aggressive about it. Let them. In the meantime, I want you to document everything. Every interaction, every email, every letter. We're going to need it. Derek, I found something else, something big." I told him about the community well system. He listened intently, asking several technical questions about the setup and what documentation I'd found. "Kyle, if what you're saying is true, this is a major violation. Private wells serving multiple homes require extensive permitting, regular water quality testing, and inspections by the state health department. If they're operating an unpermitted well, they could be looking at fines of up to $25,000 per day, plus mandatory shutdown orders. What should I do with this information?" "Nothing yet. Let me do some research on the regulatory requirements, but this could give us significant leverage in negotiating a resolution to your walkway issue. I spent the rest of the day doing my regular work. I was a software consultant, which meant I could work from home most days. It was a good thing, too, because the blizzard had intensified and the roads were nearly impassable. The news was reporting that 2 people had already died from exposure when their cars slid off the highway into a ditch. Around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I heard a knock on my door. It was Mrs. Patterson, bundled up in about 6 layers of clothing. "Kyle, I want to thank you for keeping the sidewalk clear," she said, her voice muffled by her scarf. "I heard Brenda is giving you trouble about it." "Don't worry about it, Mrs. Patterson. I'm handling it. She's a menace, that woman. Ever since her husband left her last year, she's been taking it out on everyone in the neighborhood. She fined me $200 last month because my mailbox was half an inch too far from the curb. Half an inch. I measured it 3 times. I didn't know that. Oh, she's done worse to others. The Kramers down on Willow Street. She forced them to tear out their entire vegetable garden because it violated some obscure landscaping rule. Cost them thousands of dollars and months of work. They're thinking of selling